Chapter 15, The Actual Mission. Many years ago, I was in a church that jumped on the bandwagon of having a mission statement. It was the latest rage coming from the corporate world, and churches were following suit. I guess we had forgotten why we existed, and a cleverly assembled mission statement was the perfect solution. After countless weeks and months of development, we put together a pithy 2-sentence statement that was then put on posters and brochures and was promptly forgotten by most. The average person in our large church couldn't have recited it or identified it from the numerous other sayings. I noticed that we put the bulk of our emphasis, time, money, and staff hiring on the last 3 words, beginning with seekers. That meant outreach events, evangelism strategies, and counting conversions and attendance records were the dominant forces behind everything we did. That's where the money got spent, the staff got hired, and all purposes ended. That wasn't morally wrong, it was just lopsided and out of balance with the Bible. Years later, after serving in several other churches and sitting through thousands of hours of board meetings, strategy sessions, team planning meetings, conferences, and training seminars, I came to the conclusion that the real unspoken and underlying mission statement of most of the churches I experienced was, "We exist to get more people to come here so that we could exist." I once wondered out loud, if our church ceased to exist, who outside of our church would care? In other words, it seemed we were totally self-serving. We existed only for those that we could benefit from if they stayed among us. But if we disbanded, almost all of these people would simply be absorbed into one of the other numerous churches doing pretty much the same thing, and no one would even notice the absence after a year or so. Only those who attended received any benefit from our existence. It felt rather, selfish. I was reminded of this when things weren't going very well financially for us. We were forced to put the building back up for sale. This was the second time we tried to sell it in my short time on staff. We were still under the advice that the market was bad and it would take a while, but we were out of options. I had been so ignorant about how to deal with poverty culture that I started attending meetings of the Spokane Homeless Coalition. It's a gathering of about 50 different agencies, government groups, nonprofits, and ministries that help the poor. Ours was the only church represented. I was elected to the leadership team 3 times. 2 of those were consecutive terms as chairman. I learned a lot, and I met a lot of other people who work among the poor. I began to create many partnerships with other agencies and groups, often using our wonderfully strategic location as a major center for works of health or distribution of essential needs items. For about a 2-year period, the Gonzaga Campus Kitchen held its weekly meal for the poor in our gym on Thursday nights. Just after we put the site on the market, their leader came to me with tears in her eyes because she saw the for sale sign go up on the building. Another woman who had worked for Spokane Neighborhood Action Program for many years confided in me that a bunch of the agency people had taken bets a long time ago about how long I'd last. "You've made it more than twice as long as anyone thought," she told me. "They've watched a lot of Christians come and go in this work." She used to be a Lutheran pastor's wife for many years and thought the church would toss me out or I'd give up long before we got this far. Numerous homeless people quietly came up to me almost in a state of panic and fear to ask, "How long before all this goes away?" When the homeless saw the for sale signs, their sorrow ran deep. But they are so accustomed to disappointment that their first reaction was to use their words and spend their time trying to console me, which I thought was really touching. Our church had become their place of hope and safety, and they were afraid it would all disappear, even though only a small percentage of them ever came to a church service. This was their home. Like sanctuary are the words that were most used. They experienced dignity, respect, and safety in our place. A lady from another nonprofit told me at our last citywide coalition meeting that she wanted to look up my number to call me, but couldn't remember the name of the church. Sticking her head out of her office at the shelter she works in, she called out, "What's the name of that church where Pastor Rob—" "First Covenant," came the chorus of replies from the poor gathered there before she even finished. They know us. One Sunday afternoon, as I was talking with a homeless drunk, I couldn't figure out why he was mad at me. Finally, through his slurred words, he blurted out, "Because everybody likes you. No matter where I go, from one end of town to the other, everyone here on the streets talks about you and how great you guys are and how much they like coming here." Why would this anger him? In the end, it came out that he didn't think any of those people deserved it. I found that ironic. None of us do, but love shines through anyway. That's the mission of the church. Grace. God knows what will come next. He loves the poor, so we keep going. He has answers for our future as a collective and as individuals. We planned on holding on in faith until He leads us to what is next, or just closed it all down and scattered us to new places. I guess we will just keep on feeding the poor and destitute until we can't anymore, I had told a couple of pastors at a conference. We were out of solutions. But now, I know what it feels like to be in a church where there are way more people outside of our doors who care about our existence than there are inside. It feels good.